Carl, you're very welcome back to the show. You're off the bike.
Yeah, I wish I was on it. It's such a nice day, but I have to show in and do some work too.
Very good. Now, credit card debt, I mean, it's something that we're all very familiar with, but as you've shown there are ways and means to sort of avoid it.
Well, I suppose if you have it, what I'm saying is that there's cards out there that have a zero introductory offer for transferring debt onto it. So instead of having a debt that you're not really paying down, if you're finding it hard to make those payments, you could opt to get a new card, have a 0% rate, and that way any payment you make is actually reducing your debt rather than paying that interest. Now, if that's the case, though, you are in a tricky position because a new credit card might not be available to you very readily. What we do find is that people who have debt problems, credit cards are usually in that mix too. Cars are in that mix. So if you've ever missed a payment on anything, this plan isn't going to work. But if it's just a case that you're saying, well, I got this credit card bill that I kind of wasn't expecting, it could be for paying your property tax or anything else, this is a way of using the finance companies against themselves. And I'm always a great believer, and I'm always telling my clients, you've got to beat the bank, and it's even better when you beat the banks using their own tools against them.
So it's for people really who pay the minimum amount per month, which is really just covering the interest, which can be at a very high rate.
It can be extraordinary. I mean, like, you're talking upwards of 20%. If you apply that to any other form of debt, you actually would never be able to afford it. Like, if interest rates on houses were 20%, you'd never buy a house, or the price would have to be, you know, 40,000 euro or something like that. So again, it's really just a case of be aware of interest, because when you're earning interest, you need to know about it. When you're paying interest, you need to know about it. And the difference between the two is really what we're doing here, is we're taking something that has 0% interest, where it would normally have 20% interest, and you can pay that down. And even if you revert to 20%, you've got some of your debt gone.
And can you consistently do that, jump from one credit card company to another? Usually like that interest-free, that zero credit, that lasts about 6 months, say. So can you jump from your Tesco to your permanent TSB to different credit card companies in order to avail of this consistently on the money you owe?
You can kind of, like, what I call puddle jump it, but the problem could also be, though, every time you start up a new card in this country, they've got this annual charge on it, which is like a
40 euro
credit card levy, of 40 euro. And usually when you start with a credit company, you can't necessarily, you know, bring over the whole balance, because with your previous holder you might have had a bigger beginning balance, and your next card might have a limit of 2,000, whereas your previous balance was 5,000. So there's some nuances to it, but it is just one of those things that you should have in the bag of tools and be aware of, so that you can use it if you need to.
Perfect. Now, there's a piece of bad news for savers over the weekend that was kind of snuck in over the bank holiday weekend, and that was about the state savings. And the government has, well, the banks have been putting pressure on the government, haven't they, to try and reduce the interest that people are getting off the back of these state savings, and the government, it seems, have responded, and it's not good news.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, because you know, it's just another example of the banks saying, heads we win, tails you lose. They always seem to come out on top no matter what you do. Like, the banks never came out and said that a state-sponsored entity paying the highest rate in the market was wrong when it was them. And let's not forget, Anglo, you know, all the banks that are nationalised all had the highest interest rate at one stage, and they never complained about it until such time as they lowered their rates, and then the state savings scheme was that bit higher. And so that's frustrating for them. They're saying, oh, it's unfair competition. But how is it unfair when it was that way before? Let's
go through some of the saving packages that people will be affected by then. It's the 5-year bonds, 10-year bonds, prize bonds?
Well, prize bonds, what they've done is they've lowered the winner's pot, you still have to win. I mean, you could hold a prize bond forever and win nothing, so that's not like a fixed thing.
These are all savings products through An Post.
And ultimately through the National Treasury Management Association. So some of them have come down by about 40%. Now, the good thing is, in some of them, you also don't pay any tax, whereas on any deposit, you're going to pay about 33% tax, which is the DIRT rate, deposit interest retention. What you've got to realise, though, is that there's a game here at play where the banks want to get their 1-year money down below 2%, and if there's someone in the market offering more, that's a threat to them, so they apply all this pressure to get the state to bring it down. But you can still beat the banks, because you could buy, for instance, an Irish bond, which is yielding more than that. And even though you pay income tax on bond interest, it's you'll be ahead versus where you would be even getting deposit interest.
So, Carl, what's changed over the weekend? Does it still mean that people are still in a better position to put their money with these state savings products than to put them with the banks?
Not necessarily with now the leading bank products. So that's really what has happened is that the An Post has kind of caved into the pressure of the bankers saying, you know, you can't have the highest rate. Now, in some instances, some banks will be ahead of them. In the main, state savings is still a very good choice, but it's nowhere near as good as it was because almost half of some of the best schemes have just had the goodness stripped right out of them.
It's very important to note that this is for people going in and beginning to save on these packages now, and not people who are currently saving.
Yeah, sorry, in case I'm scaring everyone to death out there.
There's people at home going,
what I should say, it's new entrants into any savings scheme. People who've already signed up, you sign up in your original terms, it goes forward like that. If this is for new things, so there's already so much money in the state savings schemes. There's about 17 billion when you add up all of them.
They're very popular, aren't they?
Well, they are, and the thing is, like, they got even more popular back in sort of 2009, 2010, 2011, when people were really worried about what was going to happen with the country. And you have to remember, when they got into those schemes, you're talking about 3, 5 and 10-year schemes. So that money tends to go in there and sit there, and that's really where the banking frustration was, is because they said, this money's going in there, it's not coming to us. We believe that we should be the beneficiaries of all things financial in this country, including, you know, all the future taxes of everybody.
But the people who got into those schemes in 2009, they're still okay. Their 10-year bonds are fine. Now the 5 years and the other ones will be coming to fruition now.
Precisely.
The SSIA scheme was probably one of the most popular schemes, if you like, for the government savings schemes, and there was a massive return on that. Do you think we're going to see the like again?
As a matter of fact, there's a scheme that's even better than them, and it's still available today, and it's called a pension. Because let's not forget, the SSII was a simple plan. You put in €5, you get another euro. Maybe it was 4 and 1. Anyway, it's that long ago because they were launched like, 12 years ago, showing my age now. The thing is, with pensions, if you're paying at that top-rated tax, you get relief of 41%. So what that means is you put in €59 and you get 100, which is much better than the SSIA of put in 80 and you get 20 to bring you to 100. So it's even better again. All the growth is tax-free. It's like you put off your tax bill for years and years. So it's really about the way that they frame things, because if people went out and said, oh, we've got this new scheme, it's like an SSIA, now it lasts a bit longer, but it's even
you won't get your money back till you're over 65. But
precisely. Well, there's ways to get out of pensions early, and that's the important thing. Like, pensions are a lot more than just saying, oh, live until you're 65, be an old fogey running around. It's not like that. You've got lots of different options. There's different structures. There's different ways to get money out from age 50. Even they brought in a new scheme for people who made additional contributions to get some of that out pre-retirement if you needed the money. So, you know, it's a little bit trickier to talk about, but in terms of the value of it and how good it is, it's even better than the SSIAs. So they won't be bringing back the SSIAs, but pensions are still available, and, you know, half the people out there don't have one, so that is something that I would say is worth looking at for
and even
at least 50% of people.
We have seen these dramatic cuts in the government savings. It's worth also shopping around to see, look, what the banks can offer now and what they are going to, how are they going to try and balance it out.
You could, or, you know, the other thing is, and people don't think about it necessarily, with so much money going into the world through central banks, it's probably going to be very good to stock markets. Stock markets have doubled, trebled in some cases since 2009. This year alone, one of the popular indices, the S&P 500, up, you know, in the mid-teens. But you could actually buy stocks that pay a dividend. And I'm not talking like weird companies. I mean stuff that you know, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, and they put money into your account all the time. And that's one of my favorite things, when I look at my bank balance and you see all the money going out, but then you see the money coming in from your stocks. It's a wonderful thing, and they tend to go up in value.
No one's going to complain about that.
No, it's great. It's a surprise because I don't keep track of the dividend date, so it's just like, wow, how nice, there's some dividends in there.
Very good. Carl, as always, thanks for your financial advice. Thank you very much. Now, if you have a question for Carl, or if you have a story for us on the show, well, here's how to get in touch.
If you've got a story you'd like to share, or if you'd like to get in touch with the show, we want